What makes a song perfect? Does it get stuck in your head, give you all the feels, make you get up and dance? Is it just personal taste? Or are there some objective qualities that elevate a song to this level? Join us as we attempt to answer these questions and more. This is The Perfect Song.
What a beautiful face I have found in this place that is circling all around the sun. What a beautiful dream that could flash on the screen in a blink of an eye and be gone from me, soft and sweet.
Hello and welcome again to the GenXplainers podcast. Today we're looking for the perfect song, and today's song was nominated by Mike. It's In the Aeroplane Over the Sea by Neutral Milk Hotel. So Mike, give us the lowdown.
Well, this is one of those songs that came out in the late 90s from their second album, Neutral Milk Hotel's second album, which was basically Neutral Milk Hotel was a project band that Jeff Mangum, I had to look up the name one more time because I consider it his magnum opus project, but it's Mangum is his name.
I thought it was Magnum at first too. Like, we don't know. That says Mangum.
Mangum. Anyway, and it became like a hit 5 to 6 years after it came out, and it failed at the beginning. It was like not a hit at all, and people discarded it as like, kind of this weird weird indie band that no one really should care about. And then suddenly became the song, and the album became the biggest indie album of the time, like 5 or 6 years later, after they'd already broken up. Another band that broke up.
Yeah, the album was huge. I remember it was like, everyone was talking about it.
It was introduced to me by a former intern who worked with me at CineQuest. Jennifer Glynn's her name, and she probably will listen to this because we're still Facebook friends. She actually was the one who put this on a mixtape for me. Oh my God, mixtapes.
No, we're going to do a whole show on mixtapes. Don't worry.
Yeah. And I had not heard the song. I had not heard the song until she was my intern in like the early 2000s. I remember vividly playing this in my car for the first time in the early 2000s, and it was just like this wave of something. I don't know how to describe it. It was a wave of something that overcame me when I listened to this particular song.
Yeah, it connected.
The first track.
Right?
Yeah. It did. Yeah,
and it's a good song for in the car driving to.
It is. It's a driving song.
And it should be also noted, I forgot to mention, that the band was featured and name-checked on Parks and Recreation back in the day. And it's a very funny episode.
It was.
Neutral Milk Hotel. What is that?
That's my favorite band. I've told you that like 1,000 times.
I don't remember.
It's really interesting. The thing about it, the reason the album came about was because he had just recently read The Diary of Anne Frank. And he was so inspired by that to creating poems and songs about what he had read, and that's how the album came about, was because of his love of like her diary. It was really interesting to hear that. And if you listen to the whole album, and I'm kind of cheated here a little bit because the whole album I think is a concept piece. So this is the one song that actually stands out. If you don't listen to the whole album, the one song that stands out from the album that you could actually play individually without hearing the whole thing. And for me, like lyrically, poetically, sound wise, they're using different elements. You mentioned earlier the singing saw. There's all these different elements to it that you just don't hear in your regular old songs. And they were just really building these various layers in sound, and the fuzziness of the guitars, all the effects they put on stuff. There's all these elements to it that just really work for me. So that's kind of a little bit of the background, not complete background, because I would be talking for like next 20 minutes for the complete background. So, but it is something that really it holds up, 25 years later as something that's really pretty poetic.
Yeah, yeah. My sort of reaction to it, and again, I'd heard the song before, but the song is very kind of the way I said it was it's very straightforward, sort of musically. It's very I called it troubadourish. I envisioned a guy wandering the roads of back roads and playing the song to people in the in the square or something. And that's the nature of the vocal, I think, the way he's singing it. Yeah, the lo-fi feel to the guitars. You can hear in the recording, the guitar recording is actually overdriven a little bit. You can hear it distorting, which works for the song. It actually it adds to the song's impact. And yeah, the saw and then the horns or the brass that comes in later kind of builds. It's like a bunch of verses, quite honestly, and it's just builds on itself and just propels forward and takes you along. But it's not like it does a lot of acrobatics in between. It just sort of, does what it does. You know what the song reminds me of is a song by Robin Hitchcock called The Ghost Ship.
The ghost ship haunts the sea, still come back and marry me. The rust is where her heart should be tonight.
Yeah, and I like the fact that it's a song that, yes, there was a concept to it. Like I said, the Anne Frank part of it, he really was inspired by that, and he does mention it in the song about her face and keep it close to him, all that stuff. But what I find that it does is it takes something that somebody falls in love with and wants to keep that as long as they can, and the memory of that and the lingering of that impact. And so I think the lyrics work really well with that. So
yeah, I think so too. How about you, Al? What do you think?
Well, you guys have said a lot. I will add, I like this song. I actually had not heard this song before getting ready for this podcast. So I was able to discover the song and explore the whole record and enjoy it. And so my impressions are very fresh. And I think that it is a beautiful song. I believe the instrumentation and the vocalization, the fact that it sounds so overdriven, it gives it almost a kind of raw quality that makes it more heartfelt to me, more personal and intimate because it isn't polished. And when the saw comes in, let's all talk about the saw. When the saw comes in, I love it. I love the saw, and I love that it sounds different, and it is kind of evocative of its time. Like there was the whole Arcade Fire, and like everyone's bringing in different kinds of instruments and this kind of indie vibe. And the lyrics work with that as well. It's almost dreamlike. One minute you're dead and ashes being poured out from an airplane, and next minute you're young and enjoying life. So I think it's a very good song. It's a good song. Then the saw comes in, then it's a great song.
Yeah, the saw's awesome.
As I was doing my research on the genesis of the song, I thought, in the song itself, you just hit on a couple things there that it feels like or I think Matt said it, like somebody who would go from town to town, like singing this in the town square kind of thing. And it kind of feels that way. When I found out how the song came about, was he had just become romantically involved with one of the people who's involved with the album, and I can't remember her name right now, Laura something, and Carter, thank you. And they were outside at wherever they were living at the time, and he's like, I just thought of a song, and ran back inside to do it. It kind of feels that way, that kind of song where it's like, I have this idea. I got to go in and write it right now. And that's what the song kind of feels like to me. It's just like there's a lot of imagery in the lyrics. You don't always know what the imagery represents. And I think that adds to the romanticism and the poeticism of the song. So
Yeah. So let's ask the question, is it a perfect song? Mike, why don't you weigh in on this?
well, I'm going to say yes, only because of its impact on me. And I've listened to this song over and over again for 20 years.
Is it perfect? In my mind, it's very good. I like it a lot. And I think it does what it is intending to do. And it's perfect in that way. And it is represent sort of really is a really, really good example of that time in the lo-fi indie rock aesthetic. So in that way, it's a perfect crystallization of that mood and time and feel. Do I think it's perfect in general? I'll say yes. I just made the decision now. How about you?
I feel very similar to Matt in the sense that it is, if it is perfect, it's almost conditionally perfect in the sense that it's perfect for what it's conveying, but because it's, I guess in my mind, I think of perfection and I think of something that is perfectly polished, and this is absolutely the opposite of that, but it's also perfectly raw and perfectly intimate. So it is kind of a hard call for me, and I have a natural inclination to want to do the opposite of whatever the two of you are doing. But I think I'm going to agree and say that it is.
Look at that. We need to have
Wow.
a special sound that happens when we all agree.
Meow.
America's good.
Well, excellent. Yes, we agree. It's a perfect song, everybody. So please, if you haven't heard it, check it out in the Airplane Over the Sea, Neutral Milk Hotel. And as Mike mentioned, you may want to just listen to that whole album. So same title, the album is titled the same, because it's a whole journey. So
when we do perfect albums, this will be my first submission, just so you know.
Okay,
great.
stop hijacking this podcast for that podcast.
Jeez.
So
So thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to this GenXplainers podcast. Follow us on Instagram and friend us on Facebook. Just search for GenXplainers and find us on Patreon, where you can support the channel and gain access to extended cuts of the podcast as well as exclusive bonus content. See you next time.